In the exact time it takes me to finish this sentence, 4 machines you interact with every single day just copied, read, and absorbed 3 million pages of human history. They didn't ask for permission, and they didn't pay a single dime. This visualization of web activity reveals a split invisible to the average user. While you click and scroll at a human pace, automated scraping bots account for nearly half of all global traffic, moving data at speeds we can't perceive. We spent 6 months tracing the digital footprints of these machines. They represent a massive extraction operation that has effectively discarded the traditional rules of the web, a period we call the Great Ingestion. The internet most of us experience is a surface-level interface. Beneath it, this parallel infrastructure of server farms and proxy networks operates strictly to siphon human text into machine-readable datasets. The ingestion began with Common Crawl, a nonprofit project that spent years building a massive archive of the web. It was originally intended to be a digital backup, a way to preserve petabytes of blogs, forums, and news sites for posterity. AI companies realized they didn't need to scrape the web themselves and risk immediate detection. They could simply download the Common Crawl archive and treat the copyrighted material inside as an open-source training library, using fair use as their legal shield. To understand why this archive became so valuable, we have to look at how a machine consumes text. This diagram shows a standard paragraph chopped into fragments, individual words and syllables. Engineers call these tokens, the fundamental fuel for an algorithm. Meta's Llama 3 required 15 trillion tokens, an amount outweighing the entire recorded history of published English literature. Engineering teams soon realized that the historical archives weren't enough. To satisfy the scale of their algorithms, they had to shift from downloading archives to actively hunting for new data across the live web. For decades, the internet relied on a protocol called robots.txt, a traditional honor system where a website tells a bot which areas are off-limits. But when publishers began using these files to lock their digital doors, the scrapers simply treated the do not enter signs as mere suggestions. This flowchart tracks how the scrapers bypassed IP bans by spoofing user agents to mimic human web browsers and routing their requests through residential proxy networks. The bots convinced publisher servers that they were ordinary people in their living rooms rather than automated harvesting machines. This tactical shift turned the industry into a digital laundromat. This is where the industry applies its legal alchemy. Take the notorious Books 3 dataset, nearly 200,000 pirated books used to train major AI models. By feeding this literature into a neural network to extract statistical patterns between words, they strip away the original expression. They argue that this process turns undeniable theft into a new, original algorithmic output. This allowed the AI industry to build its foundation by treating mass digital piracy as a standardized engineering step. Pacing quickens. When the written text on the public web began to run dry, developers pivoted. They needed a new, massive source of human language, and they found it in video. AI developers built pipelines to mass transcribe millions of YouTube videos. Models are now processing tens of thousands of hours of video daily, absorbing the spoken words and expertise of independent creators who never intended their work to be used as training fuel. But scraping the entire internet also means vacuuming up its worst elements. The machines are inevitably ingesting the violent, the illegal, and the toxic content that exists in the darker corners of the web. To manage this, the industry relies on a phantom workforce. Thousands of low-wage workers in the global south are tasked with manually reviewing and filtering this digital sludge, ensuring the models don't repeat the horrific things they've scraped. These automated systems are dependent on thousands of invisible workers, tasked with manually scrubbing the industry's digital residue. As the scale of the ingestion became clear, platforms began to retaliate. Communities like Reddit erected massive paywalls, creating data toll roads that demand tens of millions of dollars from AI companies in exchange for access to the conversations of their users. International regulators are now attempting to mandate transparency, but these efforts face a mathematical reality. The data has already been ingested. Once a model is trained, it is practically impossible to force it to unlearn a specific scraped dataset. Because the scrapers have caught up to the present day, they are now encountering a new problem. This flowchart shows the loop. An AI model generates text, which is published online, vacuumed up, and fed directly back into a new model. This leads to model collapse. As machines ingest the hallucinations of other machines, the intelligence of future models begins to distort. They are effectively starving on their own synthetic output. The machines operated with such speed that the very data they rely on is now being poisoned by their own presence. This extraction is changing the way people share information online. As scrapers become more aggressive, independent blogs, artists, and community forums have begun locking their doors to avoid being harvested. We are seeing the rise of a dark forest internet, an environment where creators feel the only way to protect their work is to hide it from the machines that roam the surface. The outcome is undeniable. The Big Four have reached the bottom of the internet. The supply of high-quality, human-generated text data is running out. To keep growing, these models require a new source of fuel that exists off the screen. The race for artificial general intelligence is moving towards physical world sensors and embodied robotics. Having absorbed the vast majority of our public digital archives, these machines are now turning their sights toward our private lives and the physical world we inhabit.